everybody, Erica Serwin here from Pink Buckaroo Designs, and today I'm going to show off our brand new Stampin' Blends. If you're watching this video today, the day that I release it is November 1st, and these are our new Stampin' Blend markers. They are now available for everyone to order. They are alcohol-based markers that Stampin' Up! Has brought back. We are very proud of them, and demonstrators have gotten to play with them for a little while, and I have read nothing but praises from everyone online, and I have to agree. They are wonderful. I'm going to give you a quick run through of how to use them with this cute little stamp set called Christmas Sweaters. It is in the 2017 holiday catalog, and I am using this sweater right here. This set's perfect for your Stampin' Blends because they all need to be colored in, don't they? All right, so to start things off, let me give you a few pointers. The first thing you need to know is that you have to use Memento ink when you color with these. These are alcohol based, so you need to use a water-based ink. Make sure that you don't use an alcohol-based ink with your blend, Stampin' Blends. They do not go well together. So if it's an alcohol marker, use a water-based ink, which is Memento is what Stampin' Up! Recommends. The second thing you need to do is make sure that you protect your work surface underneath. I have taken a grid paper and folded it in half because it will bleed through. These markers do bleed through the paper, so just know that going in. All right, so I've stamped him in the Memento ink, and I've given it just a few minutes to dry. Make sure it's nice and dry. And I'm going to start with the lightest color first on his face. Now, the lids are tight, and they are designed like that on purpose because you want to make sure that your marker's not going to dry out. So when you put your marker lid back on, make sure that you're aiming for that hole right there, because if not, you can break off the tip of your marker. And make sure that you snap it down tight. There are two ends. We have the little skinny end, the nub, and then we have the brush end. And it's really a matter of preference. I've talked to some people who prefer the brush, and then some people like myself who prefer the nub. And you'll notice on the marker itself, there is a skinny line here, and that is going to indicate the skinny end, and a fat line right here that's going to indicate the fat line. And another good aspect of these lids is that you can store it right there on the end of your marker. All right, so this is the ivory marker. This comes as a single color, and the other ones come as a light and a dark. We have two single colors, kind of skin tone colors. So I'm using ivory for his face. The rule I like to remember when I am coloring with the Stampin' Blends is that I can always add more color easily, but to remove color, it's a little bit harder. There is a color lifter that can remove color, but it is not an easy process. So go light at first. Another tip is that because these are however the ink is designed, it does bleed out a little bit. Like I told you, it's going to bleed through the back. You can see it's starting to do that. Sometimes I find if I put too much ink, it bleeds out. So stay away from that edge and just kind of use light little taps of your marker at first. Then you can go back and add in some layers, and that's where you're going to get the shading. Wherever you add a layer of color, it's going to be a little bit darker. All right, so I've done his face, and if you see that the color hasn't bled out into close enough to your line, then go back and add a little bit of color. Of course, there's going to be some shadow here behind his mustache. Anything that's overlapping creates a shadow, so I'm going to add a little bit more color there. All right. Now I'm going to do his hat, and I'm going to start with my lighter cherry cobbler, okay? And I think I'll use the brush end this time. Play around with your paper. Turn it to see what's most comfortable for you, and go slowly. When we're in a hurry and we try to color in real fast is when we start to make mistakes. So use small strokes and just kind of flick that color on and fill in his hat. all the way down. Now I am trying not to stick my head under the camera. I like to get really close to my paper, but I'm gonna avoid that so that you don't have to see the back of my head. But when you are coloring, make sure you have good light and you have, you know, you're able to really get close and see where you're coloring. Okay, so now I've filled it in. I'm gonna leave that marker open. When I'm working with two colors, I like to just leave it open. Again, matter of preference, and you don't wanna leave it open for too long because they are alcohol based, which means they're going to dry out faster. Now I'm adding a little bit of the dark here behind the fuzz on his hat because that is, again, the fuzz would be on top of it, so it would create a shadow. I think I'm done with that, so I'm going to close it. I'm going to come back over here, and with a lighter, I'm just going to pull that darker color a little bit more towards the light part, like that. All right, I ended up upside down, didn't I? All right, now we can leave that and see what it looks like. Sometimes I feel like I need to just kind of step away from it for a little while. If you want to keep blending, don't stop. Keep blending because once it's dry, it's much more difficult to get all that to blend. But I like it for now. I'm gonna move on and work on another part of it. And then when I come back, I'll see if I need to add more or use that color lifter to take a little bit of color off. Now I'm going to use my lightest blue, which is the light pool party, and I'm going to color in just half of this sweater. I'm going to remember you don't want to work on too big of segments at a time because the ink will dry, and if you try to color in the whole sweater and then come back to add in some shading, you're going to find that it's dry and it's hard to blend that way. So I'm just going to add in a very light layer. And even up here at the top, I'm just going to kind of leave that a little bit white because at the top where the light is shining down, that would be the lightest. Now I'm going to go back with the dark and go around this beard very, very carefully, adding in. And I'm using the brush tip again too. Here it would be either or, whichever you prefer. All right, and I'm going to add just a little bit of dark underneath that collar, and here under the arm, because where these two layers meet, that would create a shadow. Now I'm going to come back with my light. I'm going to pull that dark color back over so it's blending better into my lighter color, and I am going to finally add just that little light layer there up at the top. All right, good. Now I'm going to come over here and start working my way around again to the other side. When you are first starting with your blends, I recommend you find a stamp that doesn't have a ton of detail, doesn't have a ton of places to color. Start with something small. Don't expect perfection at first. When I first got these, I really had a lot of things I threw away. It does take some practice. You'll see that sometimes a heavy hand, you know, you don't realize that you had such a heavy hand, or you realize that you got too close to the line. I did that a lot of times. My color was bleeding out, so I had to remember to go light against the edge of the stamp image. All right, so I've done the same thing. I've added another layer of that dark. But just give yourself some practice. Stamp a whole bunch of something and then practice. Just start coloring. Sit down in front of the television or in front of some YouTube videos or Netflix and just have fun coloring. Don't put too much pressure on yourself to be perfect the first time. All right, I'm going to go back because I feel like maybe we need a little bit more dark around him. And like I said in the beginning, it's easier to add color than it is to remove color. I think it's looking pretty good. Ooh, I don't know if you guys can see, but my light is blinking. Looks like I might need to replace my bulb. All right, I like it. Now let's put the lids back on these. And I'm gonna do something just for the sake of you guys so you can see. This is the color lifter. It is basically like clear alcohol in there. I'm not sure if it's just alcohol, but that's basically what it is. And I'm just gonna take it and run it across these shoulders because I really want these shoulders to be lighter than everything else. So I'm just gonna add in a little bit of that blender, kind of flicking it in like that. All right, I think Santa's looking pretty good. One thing that I forgot to do is to color in the inside part of this sweater right here. And you wanna go very carefully in there because it's a very small space. And I'm gonna go darker in there because that is definitely going to be darker than the outside of the sweater. There we go. All right, the last thing I'm gonna do is take my dark cherry cobbler and I'm gonna use the brush tip this time because I feel like it's a little skinnier if you go really lightly than the other end. And these very small spaces for these stripes, I need something very fine. Ooh, it is very hard for me to see this. I don't have glasses yet, but I have a feeling it's coming. If you have glasses, make sure you get them when you're coloring these snaps. Lots of light. Light will help you see all the shadows and the tiny little spots that you miss. All right, he's so cute. I think this stamp set is so fun. The ugly sweater thing is just really popular and a fun thing to do in December. And these would make a great card for someone who has a great sense of humor. All right, I'm almost done filling in. Now I'm not going to shade these tiny little squares. They are just way too small to shade them in. All right, what do you guys think? Not too bad. All right, I'm going to hand cut this. We call that fussy cutting. And when you fussy cut, you want to use the smallest scissors that you have. It's easier to get around. Cut off that excess paper. One thing as I'm cutting this, I realized that I did not mention is that this is thick Whisper White cardstock. I've used both thick Whisper White cardstock and regular Whisper White, and they both work fine. And this may not be true, maybe this is just my experience, but I was finding I had less bleeding issues when I used the thick Whisper White. So if you have both, give it a try and see which you prefer. All right, almost done. There we go. All right, we're just gonna layer this up in Pink Buckaroo style. Lots of dimensionals. This is a scalloped square that I cut out with a Big Shot, the layering squares. And on top is a stitched square, which is from the stitched shape thinlits. They go really nicely. Now you can see that bleed through, right? If you're a Bible journaler, don't use these in your Bible unless you seal that page because it will bleed through. And even if you seal it, I'm not sure. Make sure you test that. All right, there he is, so cute. Let's layer up our card. Just some simple layering I did on here. I'm using Fast Fuse adhesive. This is my favorite adhesive. And honestly, I just cut some quick pieces of paper. I probably should have cut a little bit less on this one, but it was already a scrap, and so I just kept it that way. Let's put this, I love this stripe, so cute. And I'm gonna take a piece of cherry cobbler ribbon, stitched ribbon with the X's. One side has X's and one side has stitches, straight stitches, and I'm just going to tape it down. I know, cheater method, no tying needed. And we can even save that little piece for later. Let's make sure we got it straight. There we go. I need to put on a few more dimensionals because they're dimensionals, right? You can never have enough dimensionals, in my opinion. All right. There we go. Put that on there. And then, guess what? More dimensionals. Stampin' Dimensionals are my favorite Stampin' Up! Product. I can say that wholeheartedly. They are my favorite. All right, now I'm going to put this kind of at an angle like that. And then I'm just going to take some twine, some white twine, baker's twine. I'm going to get 2 strands here and pretend like it's just 1 strand and just tie a bow. That is a double bow. Nothing fancy or tricky, just using 2 strands at one time. Glue dot and done. There you go. All right, you guys. I hope you feel like I gave you a good introduction to your Stampin' Blends. They are available in single colors in the United States. They are $4.50 each, and you can get the light and the dark for $9. If you're really interested in getting all the Stampin' Blends, you can get them all for $121, I believe. But if you feel like you need to spread that out, I have a Stampin' Blends Club coming up where I'm going to do exclusive videos for my Stampin' Blends Club for people who are buying 3 sets of markers a month. And you'll also get make and takes in the mail. I'll add a link on my blog below this video for my Stampin' Blends Club if you're interested in that. And if you're watching this on YouTube, just click the link in my description and hop over to my blog. Thanks so much, you guys. Have a great day, and let me know if you have questions. Bye-bye.